So again, sometimes these videos are a little bit all over the place because I'm trying to manage and work while I'm kind of teaching these concepts, or I don't want to say so much that I'm teaching. What some of these videos will be simply sharing. And the message in sharing some of these things is allowing others that may have gone through similar distortions to understand that there's nothing wrong with them. They didn't do anything wrong. I know, again, this will probably all be cropped together, but for me, I had a specific kind of attention to detail when it came to like women's roles, men's roles, the different things that I experienced in my childhood and growing up. So, I mean, definitely throughout history, women have been treated with extreme amounts of control and abuse. So abuse of power. So, because women were weaker, we weren't able to hold property, we were not able to basically protect ourselves and care for our own needs. It gave the male counterpart, or the male masculine aspect of humanity, extreme control and power, and that power led to a lot of distortion within the systems. I know myself, even growing up, I worked in oil and gas for a while, and just seeing how like the things that went on behind closed doors, like what the hell, like, and I'm sure the wives didn't know about it. I'm sure that these weren't things that were publicized to their families, but yeah, I mean, it was just an example. I was a young girl, I did waitressing, but there's like these agencies that would hire young girls to show up at these events and like serve food, like just gross stuff, like just stuff that just doesn't even make sense. But it was all these guys would participate in these events. And especially even like in our downtown core here in Canada, you'd have like specifically only male dominated like associations, like only men could go into them. I'm sure like whatever happened there, we can all use our imaginations. And I'm using a little bit of sarcasm here, but it's also because it's wrapped up in a little bit of pissed offness, because I'm a strong woman. I am a very intelligent, diligent, hardworking woman. And the fact that men got away with this kind of crap for so long just makes me upset. Like it's so damaging to the female spirit. It's so damaging to the beauty that a woman can create with her creativity and her nurturing spirit. The other thing that it does, this total imbalance between the sexes, is it makes and it turns women, and it has turned women against each other. Because again, with having no semblance of our own basis for our own survival, then to get into a position to be okay, we'd have to take down other women. So it's just created like the whole ideology of like that patriarch system is so skewed and so damaged and so has to go. Women need to be equal to men need to be equal to women. And this is the other side of the coin that, again, I think is so powerful, because I see a lot of women being sort of empowered nowadays, like they are sort of walking in this power, but it's a very toxic power as well. And I want to get into this because power should come from things that are righteous. Power should come from, and I don't even want to say power, because we don't need power. We don't need dominance over any other. We need to just be peaceful and kind and compassionate and helpful and hardworking, okay? Power really should not equal into what we need, what we're desiring to create for ourselves. However, we do need to at least have an equilibrium. So within any relationship, within any exchange of energy with another, we need to have balance and we need to have equality. That means a mutual respect from each to the other in accordance with all things, all communications, all interactions, all spatial. Okay, when I say spatial, obviously meaning as a man to a woman to a man. You are not allowed to touch my auric field unless I welcome you in. So this is my body, this is my sovereignty. if I am not inviting you in, and it'll be pretty damn obvious if I am, stay the hell away from my body and who I am and what I am. This is, again, a line that ever since I've been incarnated here, men have crossed. They think that they have the right to reach into somebody's field, do, take, touch, whatever that they want, because perhaps they have some sort of a, I don't know, feeling or magnetism or whatever you want to call it, but that's incorrect. That is a border that should not be breached unless two people are in agreement with it. And that dominant primal energy that, to some degree, I guess happens in the animal kingdom, fine. That's great. That works for horses and lions and whatever else. Doesn't work for human beings. Doesn't work for this human being anyways. And that is something that should not be disrespected. Women should not be taken advantage of. Now, here's the other side of the coin. Women should also not be taking advantage of men, okay? Women have the ability, obviously through the vehicle of being attractive or whatever it is, they have the ability to, of course, create this sort of magnetism, and so vice versa with a man to a woman as well. But it should not be utilized improperly. So that means you should not use the gifts that you have or what you are, your aura, to try to take from others, to try to get stuff, material things. You shouldn't be playing with love. Essentially, like, a union between two people should be because two people are whole and they're coming together because there's an exchange of love. And what do I mean by that? Well, they balance each other intellectually. There's conversations that, bring the other up. They're supportive. They're not dominating. They're not trying to suck the other person's time. They give the other person space. When you have a loving relationship, it's an open relationship. But I don't mean open like you sleep around. I just mean it's fluid. You understand the sovereignty of the other person. Hey, they might have to go into their own room or into their own house or whatever it is for, days, weeks on end, if that's what they need, if that's what their soul needs. You can't put your claws into them and suck the life out of them. That's not love. Love is gentle. Love is understanding. Love allows, it's expansive. It's never contractive. It's never going to cage you. And so again, this is what men and women have to understand, is that for women, in terms of manipulation, dominance, and control, historically, women have done this through the mechanism of sexual attraction or the mechanism of beauty. They're alluring beauty, and so therefore they try to ensnare a man or whatever. Men can do this too. I mean, it can work both ways depending on what the situation is. But if the thought form or the motivation or manipulation is towards garnering something from that person, so consuming or taking something from that person that is not calibrating to just a love exchange, then it's not correct. Women should not use men for sex. It happens nowadays. It's probably happened for a long time, but women should not, on the flip side, be using men in a way that is unrighteous. Women, I see them, on dating apps and posting things and, continually sucking this energy from men, likes, this, that, I want a purse, pay my rent, do all these weird things, right? That's very toxic, and that damages the whole collective, the whole human consciousness, because then you have these men that think that that's what women are there to do, is to just manipulate and take and consume. And then you have these women that think men are just, again, there to use them for whatever and throw them away. There's no love exchanged. So we have to start to identify these problems and archetypes within our society to fix them. Okay, so for a man, let's talk about for the masculine sort of polarity. What can be some of these barriers and toxicities and kind of control factors, okay? So obviously the most extreme would be that, you know, you are my property, and in different cultures it manifests in different ways, but the woman is the property, the woman has no rights, and perhaps even we could take a life of that woman if she's disrespecting us, dishonoring us. We could have multiple relationships. So within the desires of the man, they could be with many different women, and also that be okay in the construct of that ideology. Okay, and I'm talking about things that are toxic. Okay, so then there can be sort of the old paradigm of, okay, you'll have the good housewife at home, and yet the man will be doing things on the side in his business meetings, yada, 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 what all those things are. Again, very toxic because it's manipulative, it's deceptive, it is not correct and truthful. And then you have the ability of a man to dominate a woman due to property holdings, wealth holdings, you know, this ideology that they control the survival of the woman, so therefore they control, like a puppet master, all the different things. Okay, so again, very toxic, not an equilibrium, not a good way to be in a relationship. Then we also have the issues with men of porn addiction, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sex addictions, just to name a few. These are things that are going on in our society. These are things that are toxic. They're things that are ripping families apart. And high expectations on the women. So really giving nothing, being overworking, only really focusing from a male standpoint on materialism, you know, wanting that lifestyle, but you know, your cake and eat it too. So kind of utilizing the woman or the good woman at home, the mother of the children, but then keeping her very bound. That's a toxicity, not healthy at all in societies. And then we have the aspect of emotional abuse. So how it's not always just going to be physical abuse that a man can, you know, impart on a woman. It can be mental abuse. It can be things like sarcasm, tearing them down, letting them not feel beautiful, somehow also caging their essence. So if somebody is attractive, why shouldn't they be in full bloom? You know, like, to me, that has never made sense. Why should you have to hide what you are? If you are in love and you're with somebody that you trust, they should want you to be the most fabulous expression of self. But again, a lot of that male energy, that masculine energy, wants to take whatever it's controlling and keep it very caged and, you know, hidden away. Like, that's mine, I'm going to hide it away, don't want anybody else to see it. But that's a mechanism of distrust. Often that stems because they don't trust themselves. They know what they would be doing when they're out in the streets. And so they want to keep things, you know, keep it on lockdown, make sure that the one that is keeping the household or whatever it is stays out of the same sort of habits that they may be doing. I mean, of course, there's other things that can be negative in terms of the masculine polarity. I mean, there's people that are lazy, there's people that don't want to work, they want to live off of a woman, they're kind of like a bum, you know, they just sit there and lounge around all day. That can be a very negative expression of the male polarity. And again, that's going to come with its own set of abuses because it's coming from a place of low self-esteem and lack of attention to the self, okay? All of these things can be fixed, they can be eradicated, but we have to identify them as negativities, okay? Now, what wouldn't be considered a negativity if somebody is sick or actually physically unwell and you're helping to care for your loved one and it's something that they haven't done of their own accord, well, that wouldn't be a toxicity. That would be an instance for compassion and love and kindness and caring for that other person. But we're talking about specifically when the counterpart within your relationship is not towing their weight, not showing up as an equal partner, or using manipulative, controlling, obsessive, weird behavior that is hurting them and hurting you simultaneously. It's all about balance. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the really negative, toxic distortions that women can present as, okay? So of course there's that, you know, kind of sleazy woman that inserts herself into environments, whatever it is. The way she talks is going to be highly sexualized. She's very much about innuendos and suggestions, and her goal is to kind of capture the minds and the attention of men and pull them into her lair that way, the lioness's lair, right? Unhealthy, because it's not based on love, it's based on utilizing lustful energy to try to entrap or get something that you want. Usually it's paired with desire for material wealth, so things, making sure that you have an apartment paid for, making sure that you have whatever it is, right? And so the reason that toxic females will do this is because they're inherently lazy. They don't want to work hard, and it's more fun to be a party girl. It's more fun to run around and have fun all day long than do the hard work and the ditch digging that would take to be, a divine feminine that made their own way, the high road, by taking the high road, because the high road is always going to be more difficult. It involves hard work. It involves discipline. It involves diligence. It involves doing things you might not love to do. You don't get to be a princess when you're building yourself into a queen. There's no princess behavior. You have to lift your own boxes and, fight your own battles. And it's a different kind of energy. A princess wants everybody to take care of her and, dote on her. And she's kind of a deer in the headlights. She can't really handle her own shit. A queen, on the other hand, knows how to get things done. And she knows how to get things done because she's done it. She has fought the good fight. She's the warrior. She's the one that has come out of the fire and knows that she can handle it. Okay. And that's the kind of energy, ideally, we want feminines to be in, but you don't want to be in this energy so much so that you're like completely masculine. So that means that you're hard, cold, no compassion, no nurturing energy, because that's the other side of the spectrum of total imbalance, where as a woman, you just become so callous that you're actually mean. You're mean, you're kind of miserable to others. You don't take others' feelings into consideration, and you just kind of become this steam train railroading over everybody. That's not a proper use of divine feminine energy, okay? There can also be that damsel in distress, that, oh, poor me, that victim mentality women can play, where they're manipulating the emotions of others to be able to set up their life. That's also not a particularly helpful state to be in, and it's certainly not being in accordance with a righteousness or a divine expression of the feminine energy. And then there's women that like are extremely devious. So they will specifically do things to entrap men, things like having babies, things like getting married. Again, really toxic behaviors, so that they're trying to like take from the man. This is one thing that always bothered me with, when relationships are breaking up or marriages, that any part like expects to have like a full-on lifestyle paid for them thereafter. I think that in relationships, people should be autonomous, they should be sovereign, and they should, if there's children involved, yes, the children need to be taken care of, but not to the point where like it's these crazy alimonies and all this money. And I mean, that has never made any sense to me whatsoever. So again, I think when people get into a relationship, it should never be about what they can take from the other, or destroying the other, or somehow manipulating situations so that you're breaking another down, if that makes sense. Because even if a relationship ends, it should end with kindness and compassion and support for the other, and not this environment or this energy of like sucking the other person dry, or throwing the other person under the bus, or trying to take what wasn't earned. Like if you didn't earn it, you shouldn't take it, right? A lot of women are not gonna may not like that. But to be quite honest, in the modern world, we can all hold our own resources. We can all create wealth, and we can all have self-discipline. You don't have to go to, Holt Renfrew every afternoon and buy a purse. You can put money aside. You can be responsible. I mean, even if you are raising children, you should have other things that you're doing to bring in income and to feel sovereign within yourself. So you have pride. I know myself, I run many companies. I would be an excellent mother on top of what I do, so you need to figure out what you're doing with your time. Are you sitting around raising your children and having drinks with other mothers in the afternoon? Is that a real good use of your time? Not so much, right? So again, you always have to show up in the way that you want to teach your children to show up in their lives. So everything that you do is reflected back to them. And therefore, being a mother and being in that role, if you are a stay-at-home, if you're a homemaker or a mom, you've got to be really diligent to the role that you are showing up as. And so I always think that there should be some sort of an entrepreneurial or educational spirit within the mother, because again, you're going to show your children that vocation and intelligence and knowledge and building things and creating is so important to their well-being and their purpose. So again, yes, if things end and there's a divorce or something like that, the children should be taken care of to a certain degree. But if there's a separation, the mom should also have to get a job. I mean, that's my opinion. If we want an equal system, it has to be equal. Women can work, men can work. We both have brains, we both have hands, we both have skills. So again, when a woman falls into this victim mentality of poor me, I can't handle the world, you have to pay for everything, like this princess mentality, it's not healthy. It's not the highest expression of the female, the healed female, right? And again, I'm just giving my thoughts about how society as a whole can start to create a greater equilibrium and a better world. And until we look at the deficiencies within society, until we look at what is not working, we can't fix it. And some of these things are going to be uncomfortable. Some of the things are going to require hard work, change, a little bit of elbow grease to get in there and become a better version. It is literally about looking yourself in the mirror and being a reflection of the best version of yourself. That's what it means to walk in that divine radiance. It is going to be about leveling up and bringing yourself to that higher state of being.